Early morning in Chicago, it was brutal. The biting wind blew through the empty streets, carrying with it a damp cold that entered the bones. Lucas, a 17-year-old young man, huddled under a piece of cardboard, trying to find some warmth on the steps of an old abandoned train station. His coat was worn out, his sneakers were holey, and his belly was growling in protest at the lack of food. 2 years ago, he had run away from home. The home that was supposed to protect him had become hell after his mother's death. His stepfather, a bitter and violent man, made it clear that Lucas was not welcome. With no one to help him, he ended up on the streets, surviving on petty theft and occasional begging. But no matter how accustomed he was to the cold and hunger, some nights seemed harder than others. At that moment, Lucas was trying to ignore the numbness in his fingers when he heard a faint, almost imperceptible sound. A low cry coming from the end of the abandoned platform. With effort, he stood up, rubbing his hands together to bring some feeling back. He walked slowly toward the sound, and what he found made his chest tighten. One husky puppy, small and fragile, trembled inside a wet cardboard box. Its dirty and tangled fur indicated that it had been abandoned there for days. The animal looked up at Lucas with its blue-gray eyes, letting out another weak whine, its breathing short and ragged. Lucas hesitated. He could barely take care of himself. How would you help a dog? But then, as he looked into the cub's eyes, he saw something familiar. Loneliness, helplessness, the same feeling that haunted him every night. Without thinking much, he took the only scarf I owned and wrapped the little husky around him, bringing him close to his chest. "You're worse off than me, huh?" he murmured, trying to muster a smile. The cub, as if understanding, snuggled against him, seeking warmth. Lucas sighed, feeling the weight of the decision he had just made. He didn't know how, but that little dog was now his responsibility. The puppy was shaking against Lucas's chest, and he knew he needed to do something. Quickly, the intense cold could kill him before dawn. With hurried steps, he left the abandoned station and headed towards an old warehouse, where other homeless people used to gather to escape the cold. The place was dark, with some cardboard boxes scattered around and barrels burning wood to generate heat. Donna Marta, a lady with gray hair and a stern look, was one of the few who led that small group of survivors. "And what do we have here?" she asked when she saw Lucas holding the little husky. "I found him at the station, freezing." Donna Marta narrowed her eyes, but then sighed. "If you want to keep him alive, you need to get food. A puppy like this needs to eat well." Lucas nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility growing even more. He was already struggling to get food for himself. How would you support a dog? Obstacles and first challenges. The next day, Lucas left with the puppy, now named Blue because of his eyes, in search of something to eat. He passed bakeries and cafeterias, smelling the air filled with hot food, but no one seemed willing to help him. When he tried to order some leftovers, a restaurant security guard unceremoniously kicked him out. "Get lost, kid. This is no place for bums." Lucas held back his anger, but his stomach growled loudly. Blue was also weak. He would have to find another solution. Later, when passing through a busy public square, Lucas saw street artists performing, musicians, dancers, even a man juggling. People left coins and bills in their hats. It was then that he had an idea. He took a piece of old cardboard and wrote with a broken pen, "Hungry, but not alone. Any help would be appreciated." With Blue at his side, sitting obediently, Lucas sat on the sidewalk and waited. In the beginning, no one stopped. Some looked out of the corner of their eye and moved on. But then Blue, with her newly recovered energy, began to act. Every time someone passed by, he wagged his tail, looked directly at the person, and let out a low bark, almost like a greeting. Some people started to laugh and stopped to watch him. A woman approached, took some coins, and placed them in front of Lucas. He's adorable. Take good care of him." Lucas was surprised. The puppy, just being himself, was already helping more than he imagined. And so, for the first time, things seemed to start to change. Days passed, and Lucas and Blue developed a rhythm. In the morning, they looked for warm places to sleep. In the afternoon, they sat in the busy square, where Blue, with her contagious energy, attracted people who left small donations. Lucas had never felt anything like this. For the first time in years, he wasn't completely alone. But that night, everything changed. The breaking moment. After a long day in the square, Lucas decided to take a shortcut for a narrow alley, trying to get to the warehouse where he slept. But as soon as he entered the dark hallway, he felt a shiver run down his spine. There was someone there. Before he could react, a harsh voice echoed, "Very smart of you, kid. Did you think we wouldn't notice you collecting money every day?" Two young men emerged from the shadows. Lucas recognized them by sight, older boys who lived on the streets, known for robbing the weakest. Lucas swallowed. "I have nothing." The group leader smiled, a humorless smile. "Oh, but yes, there is. We saw it. Go, deliver what you got today." Lucas clutched his coat pocket, where he kept some coins and some crumpled money. It was all he and Blue had to eat. "Please, I need this." "And so do we." The boy took a step forward, ready to grab him, but before he could touch Lucas, Blue reacted. The small husky, until then quiet, growled with a ferocity that didn't seem to match his size. His hair stood on end, his teeth bared. The thieves hesitated. "Or what the hell?" Before they finished their sentence, Blue rushed forward, biting one of them on the leg. The boy screamed, struggling, and Lucas took advantage of the distraction to run. Heart racing, he ran without looking back, Blue running at his side. They only stopped when they reached a lit street. Lucas fell to his knees, panting, holding Blue by the hair on her neck. "You saved us, man," he whispered, feeling a mixture of adrenaline and gratitude. But when he looked at Blue, he noticed something worrying. A small red stain stained his paw. He had been injured. Lucas felt despair growing. "I didn't have money for a vet," and it was at that moment, while he was trying to think of what to do, that someone approached. A woman, with a long coat and a penetrating gaze. "That dog. Where did you get it from?" Era Mariana, a dog trainer who worked at an institution for abandoned animals, and that unexpected encounter would change everything. Lucas looked at the woman in front of him, his heart still beating fast. Mariana, with his long coat and serious look, studied Blue curiously. "He's hurt. Let me help you." Lucas clenched his jaw. He was suspicious of strangers. It had always been like that on the streets. But when Blue let out a small yelp of pain, his resistance dropped. "Are you a veterinarian?" he asked hesitantly. "No, but I work in dog rescue and rehabilitation. I have friends who can take care of him." Lucas looked at Blue, who was panting, her paw stained with blood. He couldn't lose his only friend. "It's okay, but I'm going with him," Mariana nodded. "So come." A new environment. Mariana took him to a small animal shelter, located in a renovated warehouse. As soon as they entered, Lucas saw several dogs, of different sizes and breeds, all well looked after. The place smelled strongly of pet food and disinfectant, but it was cozy. A veterinarian quickly examined Blue. "It's not serious, just a small cut. Let's clean him up and he'll be fine." Lucas let out a sigh of relief, feeling the tension leave his shoulders. While Blue was being treated, Mariana watched him. "And you, boy? Where do you live?" Lucas hesitated, looking away. "Nowhere." Mariana was silent for a moment, and then said something unexpected. "If you want, you can stay here. Work at the shelter. Food, a place to sleep, but you have to help." Lucas's eyes widened. "Why?" She smiled slightly. "Because I see that you care about him, and people who care about animals are generally good." Lucas looked at Blue, who was now licking his bandaged paw. For the first time in years, someone was offering him a chance. And for the first time, he wanted to accept it. The days turned into weeks. For the first time in years, Lucas had a safe place to sleep. He learned how to care for the shelter's dogs, helping to feed them, clean them, and even train them under the guidance of Mariana. But even with this new life, he still felt out of place. He never knew anything other than the street. The fear that all this was temporary haunted his mind. Then the past came back to haunt him. An unwanted encounter. One afternoon, as Lucas returned from the market with bags of food, he felt a shiver run down his spine. Someone was watching him. As he turned the corner, he came face to face with the same two boys who tried to rob him weeks ago. "Look who's here. And it looks like they're getting along well," one of them mocked, crossing his arms. Lucas held the bags tightly. "What do you want?" "We want compensation, kid. After that bite your dog gave me, I can't even walk straight." The second boy approached, his expression filled with anger. "Do you think you can run away from us forever? Do you think you are part of this world now?" Lucas felt panic rising. They were right. He would never truly belong to that shelter. He wasn't like Mariana and the other volunteers. He was a street kid. The two moved closer, surrounding him. Lucas thought about running, but he knew he wouldn't escape this time. It was then that a familiar presence appeared at his side. Blue, sniffing the air, growled softly. His blue-gray eyes were fixed on the boys, his posture tense. He might be small, but his loyalty was immense. "So, that dog again?" "One of." The boys grumbled, taking a step back. Lucas took a deep breath. This time, he wasn't going to run away. "You think you can scare me, but you can't. I've been in the worst possible place and survived. And now I have something you'll never have. Someone who truly cares about me." The boys were silent. For the first time, Lucas felt he had control of the situation. They exchanged glances and then shrugged. "You are not worth our time," they said, before turning and disappearing down the street. Lucas closed his eyes for a second, feeling an immense weight lift off his shoulders. Blue licked his hand as if to say, "You are not alone." And Lucas finally believed it. Lucas returned to the shelter with Blue at your side, your heart still racing from the encounter with the boys. But something inside him had changed. For the first time, he didn't feel afraid. He knew he had a place where he belonged. When he entered the warehouse, Mariana noticed his tense expression. "Everything is fine?" He hesitated for a moment, but then took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, but I need to ask something." She crossed her arms and waited. "Do you really think I can change? That I can have a different life than the one I've always had?" Mariana's smile was soft but full of meaning. "You've already changed, Lucas, and he's proving it every day. A new choice." Over the next few days, Lucas worked harder than ever. He didn't just want to survive. I wanted to build a future. It was then that Mariana made him an unexpected offer. "There is a program for young people like you. A training course to work with dogs, with housing and a small salary. I can sign you up if you want." Lucas's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "I've never been so serious." He looked at Blue, who shook his ass as if approving the idea. He had never planned a future before, but now, for the first time, I wanted to try. Lucas held the form that Mariana gave him and smiled. "So let's do this." 2 years had passed since the night Lucas had found Blue in that abandoned station. Now he walked confidently through the dog training center, wearing a blue uniform with his name embroidered on the chest. He was no longer a boy lost on the streets. He was a dog trainer in training, working to help abandoned animals find new homes. Beside him, Blue walked with her head high, her fur shiny and well-groomed. He was no longer a fragile puppy, but a strong, agile, and loyal dog. His attentive gaze and firm posture showed that he too had found his purpose. The circle closes one day, while Lucas was training a new group of rescue dogs, Mariana appeared at his side. "I have a special task for you," she said, handing him a guide. Lucas looked at the dog at the other end. He was a skinny, scared puppy, much like Blue had been when they first met. His chest tightened. He knew that feeling. He slowly knelt down and reached out to the cub. "Hey, little one, you're safe now." The little dog hesitated, but after a moment he stepped forward, resting his nose on Lucas's hand. Mariana watched the scene with a satisfied smile. And then, how does it feel to be the person who gives someone a second chance? Lucas smiled, running his hand around the puppy's neck. "I feel exactly where I should be," and for the first time, he knew he would never be alone again. End.